guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be another one of my full super in-depth review videos. Today I'm super excited to be reviewing for you guys the new P. Louise Secret Center palette as well as the P. Louise eyeshadow bases. P. Louise Makeup Academy is a brand based in the UK. I guess they're considered indie. I don't know. They were started by a makeup artist named Paige Louise. She just created her own makeup academy, so they teach makeup to makeup artists and they just have really beautiful, amazing, super dramatic looks, and they're one of my main sources for inspiration on Instagram. So sometime last year they came out with their own makeup line and I didn't buy anything just because shipping was stupidly expensive. They had an original eyeshadow palette, which I believe is now discontinued, but they came out with a holiday palette, which is called the Secret Center, so that is the palette I'm reviewing for you guys today. Mostly, I'm just going to be focusing on the formula overall and just reviewing for you guys the P. Louise formula because these are said to be some of the most pigmented shadows ever. But mostly, I was really excited to focus on the base because these have really blown up on YouTube lately. I believe Nikki Tutorials is the one who blew them up, but a lot of bigger influencers, I think I Love Sadahi and Kathleen Lights have been using these a lot and just recommending them, and I think pretty much everyone has heard of these ones if you watch any of the bigger YouTubers. I really wanted these for a while, but I avoided purchasing them just because shipping was a lot. But then on Black Friday, they did free shipping, international and otherwise, so I was really excited. So I decided to pick up two of the eyeshadow bases. I have Rumor 0.5 and Rumor 0, which is the pure white one, and then I also have the Secret Center palette. I was super excited to review these ones, especially because I'm a paying customer, so I purchase these things with my own money, whereas most of the people who've been hyping these up on YouTube have gotten them in PR. So you might be wondering, if you purchased these on Black Friday, why are you reviewing them now? Well, basically what happened was these were supposed to arrive before Christmas, so I purchased my stuff on Black Friday and I was really excited to be able to get this review up during December. First of all, I was never sent a tracking number or literally any info on my order, so I placed my order, I got a confirmation email, and then after that, radio silence. I would log into my P. Louise account on their website and it would still say like nothing's happened. It was like that for 3 weeks, so I couldn't really find a way to get in touch with them, so I figured the best way would be through Instagram, which is their biggest platform. So I left a comment. It was not anything like attacking them or anything. I was just saying, hey, I placed my order on Black Friday, haven't received any info on where my package is or any tracking number or anything, so I'd really appreciate a response. And then I checked on that same picture about 3 hours later and my comment was gone. Then I checked my DM request and I saw that they were trying to DM me. I thought it was kind of weird that they were DMing me, especially because a lot of other comments I'd seen on their pictures were pretty similar to mine, like asking, hey, I placed an order, I haven't gotten any tracking info, and they would just reply in the comments, hey, DM us. I'm pretty sure that's because they saw that I was a beauty influencer or YouTuber, and they wanted to clear it up in privacy. But for other people, they were saying, hey, DM us, it's on you to DM us, whereas with me, they wanted to get everything done as smoothly as possible, so, But if you thought the story was done there.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
I just want to preface this by saying the reps I was in contact with were very kind. They were doing their job great. She asked for my order number, so I gave it to her, and then she provided me with a shipping number. So I was checking up on that number, plugging it in pretty much every day, and then I saw that it had been delivered, but to an address in California that was not mine. I DM'd her again. Sorry, we lost your package.
Okay.
By this time, it was about 2 weeks before Christmas and I was going out of town, so she informed me that they were going to send out a replacement package, which, great. And I asked, is it going to get here before Christmas because I'm going out of town? And she said yes. I was sent another tracking number and again, for like 5 days, a shipping label has been created, but nothing's happened yet. Day came that I was leaving and my package was still not here, so I left. And when I came back, I couldn't find my package. I went to my USPS and it turns out they had rerouted my package and they were going to send it back to the UK. So I claimed my package and about a month and a half later, I had my purchase. So it took a really, really long time to get this. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have shared this if I hadn't seen a lot of other paying customers on their Instagram comments saying the same thing. Like, I ordered my stuff, I never got any updates, and then them responding, hey, just DM us. Hey guys, I just want to hop on here and clarify a few things because I totally forgot to say a couple things. I just had a lot of stuff running through my mind while I was filming that video. But first of all, I just wanted to say the reason I'm sharing this story is because a lot of the people who've been hyping up this release have been people who are based in the United States but have gotten it through PR. And I think PR is a great tool for beauty influencers. I get PR, I'm not against PR by any means. I do think that it's important to have the perspective of someone who is a paying customer, because fact is 95% of the people who buy the product itself are not going to be beauty influencers, and they're going to be paying for it with their own money. While I do think that they have a problem, mostly probably on the shipping side, obviously they are a smaller company, so they're going to have fewer employees, so it's just going to be harder for them to ship out things, and it seems like they have a problem with shipping things out on time and then getting out tracking numbers and information to their customers. So I just wanted to hop on here and clarify that. I do not have anything against the brand. I will continue to support their amazing Instagram account and hopefully buy from them in the future. Yeah. With that, let's get into the actual palette review and the base review. So here's the Secret Center palette. First of all, the packaging is
they're thicker than a bowl of oatmeal.
They kind of went like the route of Blood Sugar by Jeffree Star, going for a really big box palette. There's a huge mirror in here, really good quality mirror, and the packaging itself is beautiful. So I think even though it is bulky, it is gorgeous. Here's the color story. Obviously it is very warm toned. So you get 18 matte shades in here, pretty normal sized pans. Again, for the pan shape and size, I don't think it's anything that they had to do this big bulky packaging. I guess it's more protective. It could have been a lot more streamlined. In here there's a lot of like pink tones and peach tones and a few very colorful shades. I would say it's just shy of a rainbow palette. If they'd thrown in a green in here, it would be a full rainbow. But you're getting some really nice warm tones, some peachy tone shades, some pinks, and also some neutrals. So pretty versatile in terms of what you have in here, but that is the color story breakdown. Then the P. Louise eyeshadow bases, they have quite a few different shades. I believe when they first launched, they only had one shade, which was Rumor number 2. But they thankfully released a ton of different shades, so it's a pretty inclusive range for the bases. I bought the shade 0.5, which is the second lightest shade in the entire collection. I thought this would be good for my eyelids. And then I also got the base in Rumor 0. So this is a pure stark white. I thought it would be really good for doing cut creases. And I've seen Kaylee MUA doing a lot with this one, so I thought it would be a really good purchase. I'm gonna get right into the swatches of this palette, and then I'll get into the breakdown. I wanted to do a just overall review on the formula itself. I think these are really, really nice colorful shadows. I love the fact that it's all mattes. Normally I do like to have a matte mix of matte and shimmers in my palettes, but I don't like all shimmer palettes, and if it's gonna be all of something, I'd rather it be all mattes. The matte formula is really, really good. I'd say it's pretty similar to the James Charles Morphe palettes.
Yeah, hello, 911?
So very, very high in pigmentation. They pack on really, really well, but they also blend very easily. And these are just some really, really good colorful shadows. So overall, I'm very impressed with the formula. I think they layered really well. They blended very, very well. And even the the really hard to formulate colorful shades, like the yellow, the red, the blue, and the purple, just performed beautifully. So I was very impressed with this one. My only gripe with this one is that it smells like cheap eyeshadow. So if you've ever opened up a Morphe palette like the 35O, those have a smell to them. They kind of smell like factory produced cheaper eyeshadows. So even though these ones perform beautifully, like luxurious high-end shadows, they do smell kind of bad. In terms of the color story, I do wish that they'd included a matte black and a matte white, especially because it is an all matte palette. That just would have made sense. They definitely could have kicked out one of these pinks in here because they're pretty much the same shade, or one of these hot pinks. I don't know. They definitely could have kind of prioritized the shades that they picked out in here. The formula of these is really interesting to me because they go on really opaque and very thick, I guess. They kind of remind me of the MAC Select Cover Up Concealer, but a little bit less cakey on the eyes.
What the fuck is that?
Surprisingly, they are pretty easy to blend out. I felt like they diffused really nicely into the eyes, and you could definitely tell that I was wearing product on my eyes, but it didn't look gross and heavy when you put the eyeshadow on top. So like I think the dot size of the front camera on your iPhone, if you just like filled up this little dot with base, I think that's the amount you should use in your eyes. I do want to note though that the white base, it's not completely opaque, so I was expecting this to be super full coverage, and it kind of sheared out. So if you really want that opaque white base, you're gonna have to use a bit more than a concealer, I guess. So I think I might just stick to a white concealer for purposes like this, but I'll still use this one and use it up. I do want to mention as well though, you're getting so much product in these. So I think the price of these converts to around like $12 or $13 USD, but in here you get 0.504 fluid ounces. For reference, the standard foundation size is 1 fluid ounce, and then Urban Decay Primer Potion, 0.33 fluid ounces. So for relatively the same price, if not a little bit cheaper, you're getting a lot more product. So these are a really good deal, and even though they are expensive in shipping, I think the product itself is a better deal than the Urban Decay Primer Potion. Now I wanted to share with you guys a bunch of the eye looks I created while I was testing these products. So first I want to show you guys the looks I did with the palette itself, and then I'll also show you guys some looks I did just using the bases in general. But the first look I created with the Louise Secret Center palette was this kind of purple tone look. I pasted like purple paper roses all over myself because extraness knows no bounds. But basically for the shade I used the shade Hooked, as well as the shade In Lust, and then finally a bit of Addicted as the accent shade. So I really liked how this one turned out. I also used the P. Louise base as well for this one. The second look that I did with this palette was this Flash of Blue one. I wanted to test out a bunch of different colors from the palette at once, so I kind of just put on everything. I used the yellow shade called Climax, as well as the shades Dreamy and Bow Down, the 2 oranges, and then Velvet Kiss on the outer corner. I used a bit of the hot pink called Infatuation, and then for the blue crazy ombre liner, I used the shade Affair. This was really fun to create. Unfortunately, Instagram was really messing with me that week, and the algorithm was not favoring my posts, so that one kind of tanked in the likes. The third look I created with this palette, I didn't actually end up posting on Instagram because I didn't like how my face looked in the pictures they took. But this was a look inspired by Kaylee MUA. I used the shades Climax, the yellow, Dreamy and Bow Down, the 2 oranges, Velvet Kiss, the red, Infatuation, Idolize, and Addicted. I also created some other looks I didn't photograph using some of the browns in here just for some everyday like school makeup looks. So those were really fun to create as well, and overall I loved how all the looks turned out. And then finally, the tutorial look that I did for this video is going to be using this palette as well. For all the looks using the palette, I used P. Louise Rumor on at least one eye. I think for the first 2 looks I showed you guys, I used it on both sides, and then for the third one, I used Urban Decay Primer Potion in the shade Fix on the other eye just to see the brightness difference. Didn't really notice any difference. And then I just wanted to show you guys a few other looks I did using the bases during this week and a half of testing. So I used Rumor 05 in the Garden of Eden look, which low-key popped off on Instagram. I thought it really helped out the Huda Beauty Emerald Obsessions palette I was using, and I also used Rumor 05 in the Ocean Waves look. This was so fun to create, and I really enjoyed how this one came out. I actually used the Colourpop Retinol Rock Wet palette for this one, and that I feel like Colourpop's blue shadows do need help sometimes, so this really did a nice job of helping out the pigmentation with these ones. I also used this base when I did makeup on my mom, so I used the Huda Beauty Amethyst palette on her, and I used this base on her eyelids. I think I've seen a couple pictures on P. Louise's Instagram where she used the eye base on like more mature skin with like wrinkles and stuff, and it really did a nice job of smoothing out the lid. So I thought I'd try it on my mom, and it looks so nice. It really helped the purple shadows in the Amethyst palette and just made everything pop. So I really liked how this base performed, and then whenever I did a cut crease with any of the looks I've shown you guys, I used the white base for the cut crease. That is it for the eye looks. Let's get into the tutorial portion so you can see the palette and the bases in action.
It's lit.
I'm going to start by priming my eyes with the P. Louise Rumor eyeshadow base in the shade 0.5. I'm just doing a pretty small amount. I've tried doing like huge amounts of P. Louise base on my eyes, as well as very thin layers like this one, and I feel like just this much is good for me. The thing P. Louise recommends you do with your eyeshadow base is do a like kind of tapping motion. You'll see her doing this on her Instagram, and I've been doing this. It does take a lot of time, so I think Nikki Tutorials has been using a beauty sponge. So on one eye I'm going to do the tapping motion, and then on the other side I will blend it with a beauty sponge so you guys can see the difference. Not even gonna lie though, I've also been using my finger sometimes to blend out the base. And then I've really been rigorous with testing out this base. Sometimes I've been using like one side with the base and then one side with my Urban Decay Primer Potion in the shade Fix, just to see the different results in pigmentation. Honestly, I haven't really noticed that much of a difference. P. Louise is a little bit thicker and a bit more opaque, so if you really have a lot of discoloration on your eyelids, I think you'd like this one a lot more than Primer Potion. Alright, so that is the difference with the eyeshadow bases applied and blended out. I think they look pretty much the same regardless of sponge side or brush side. So I'm very critical of yellow eyeshadows in general, but I'm going to start off with the yellow shade here called Climax. It's just a bright true yellow matte. This entire palette is all mattes, of course, so you don't really get any shimmers in here, but that's okay. I love a good all matte look. And I'm using my AOA Studio E138 brush. To pack on the color on the base, I'm trying to do this like P. Louise motion that I see them doing a lot in their Instagram videos, where you're just kind of like packing on the color first, which is something I really like doing with all colorful eyeshadows. So just in general, whenever I'm working with a brighter, colorful formula, I like to do the kind of pat on first and then lightly blend out the edges. So I'm trying to do that with the yellow, but this one doesn't seem like it needs a ton of help. It seems like it's showing up very bright on the eyes. Whew, okay, holding up this palette as a mirror. First of all, it's really, really big, so it's kind of getting heavy. Or it just means you've been skipping arm day, Julia. Also, holding it up really close to my face is getting me this nice whiff of the shadows, and they're kind of smelly. Factory produced. I don't know, I'm kind of winging it with this one. I didn't plan out what I was gonna do, so you guys can see kind of my thought process of creating the look. Normally, I'm not a huge person of mixing warm and cool tones together, but I think I'm gonna do a kind of like fiery, yellow, reddish, orange cut crease, and then add on some of this blue right here called Affair. Go into the orange next here called Dreamy, using the AOA Studio E137. Oh, that is very bright. Wow.
Wow.
Oh, I have a feeling this is going to be one of those eye looks that just looks absolutely bonkers all the way through until we get to the end. Or maybe it'll just look bonkers all the way through. I'm going to go into the slightly darker orange shade right here called Bow Down. It's kind of between orange and red, so I feel like it's going to be a nice bridge between the two shades. So I'm just going to apply it right next to the orange that I just applied. Oh my god, I just realized I've completely forgotten to zoom you guys in for each step. So better late than never, let's do it right now. Next, I'm gonna go into the bright red matte here called Velvet Kiss. After testing this one out a couple times, I can safely say that I am not allergic to it. Thank God.
Hashtag blessed. Thanks for making me thick, Jesus.
Right, so quite clearly, these shades don't really need any help in terms of pigmentation. They're all very, very bright, and they only take a little bit of like packing on to get to this bright, crazy pigmentation. So I would say the quality of this palette is very similar to the Morphe James Charles palette, but I'm honestly thinking that if you have the James Charles palette already, you don't really need this one. It is really good quality, but I would say that the base is more unique and special than the palette itself. That's just my opinion so far, right now, in this moment. All right, so that is what I'm gonna do with the red. Obviously, I'm leaving a little bit of gapping right here, so there's not any shadow at the very, very bottom of my outer corner. That's because I'm gonna put the blue right there after I do my cut crease. I think it's cut crease time, so I'm gonna go in with my second P. Louise base. This is the Rumor Zero, so it's the pure white base. This is supposed to be really good for cut creases, and I've been using this for a bit. First of all, I do want to express the fact that this is not completely opaque. So I'm putting this amount on my eye. You'll see when I blend it out, it doesn't stay completely white. It kind of mixes a little bit, and I've been trying to get it to not do that, but it's been a struggle. But I'm gonna set in the eye base with a little bit of Laura Mercier. However, I am gonna leave this part down here unset and wet so I can get full pigmentation out of the blue shade. Now I'm gonna go into the blue shade here called Affair. It's a beautiful like bright teal shade, super bright, and I'm gonna use the AOA Studio E139 to pack this one on right here in the outer corner. That is by far the most pigmented teal I've ever seen, ever. Maybe like on the par of the ABH subculture, but this one does seem to be a bit easier to blend out. So I'm trying to be a little bit more precarious with this one, just because it is very bright, but oh, that's so pretty. I'm being a little bit cautious as I mix it in with the red, just because blue and red make purple.
I am so powerful. My mind, oh, it amazes me sometimes.
Maybe we should lean into the whole blue and red makes purple thing and add on some of this purple right here. Maybe I'll do that. think I like it. The blending is there. It'll just look a lot more evened out once you put on lashes and stuff. So I'm gonna go in with that same brush and go back into the teal shade called the Fair. Gonna pop some Ofra Pillow Talk on the inner corner. Oh, that makes such a difference. I feel like the really dramatic color switch in the eyeshadow is really carried by the lashes, so it just looks a lot more
seamless.
Alright, so in pretty much every palette / product review I do, I like to include a section where I show dupes. I also want to show some dupes and comparisons with the base as well. So obviously when I tried these ones out, I also wanted to compare them with the Urban Decay Primer Potion because before trying this out, this was my favorite eyeshadow base. So I use the shade Fix pretty much all the time. I also have the original shade. I didn't notice that big of a difference. I think they do a pretty similar job. Just in general, a medium to full coverage base like this, if you don't set it down, is going to create a pretty similar effect. So that's the difference. I would say if I had to pick one, I would go for the P. Louise. I noticed only a tiny bit more pigmentation, but honestly not that much. That would be like a notable difference. This one looks a little bit less heavy on the eyelids, but both made my eyeshadow last very long. I also wanted to test them against the Colourpop No Filter Concealer because this is a pretty popular eyeshadow base. I believe Raw Beauty Kristi uses it and kind of uses it in a similar way to the P. Louise base. Like she doesn't set it down, makes her eyeshadow super pigmented. So I wanted to test out this alongside the P. Louise. And honestly, it's easier to blend shadows on top of this, whereas this can, if you're not careful, make your shadows look a little bit muddy and also oxidize. And then finally, I did want to test out the P. Louise base against the Tarte Maracuja Creaseless Concealer because I'd been kind of using this one in the way that I saw them using the P. Louise base. This is very full coverage. It's kind of similar and very sticky as well. So it does a nice job of like making your eyeshadow super pigmented and cling down really well into the eyes. But this is so hard to blend on because it is so sticky, it's just not fun to use. This kind of beat out everything I tested against it, just barely with the Urban Decay, but the other two things I tested against were not even a chance. And then with the palette, I wanted to compare the color story to a few things I have in my collection already. So first I wanted to compare it with the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes. This one does have two like beigey white shades in here, which is what I wish was in here, but you do have a lot of like the same pink tones and reddish tones as well as some browns. This is a really good option if you're not wanting like the blue and the purple in here or the yellow, but I like this one a lot better and you're getting a lot more product. If you're wanting a dupe for the purple shade in here called the Fair, which I think is a really unique and very special shade, I do have a pretty similar one. It's from Morphe. It's called Grape Day. It's my favorite single from Morphe ever. Okay. So if you were looking at the purple in here but you didn't want to get the entire palette, this could be a great option. Okay, I don't know how I'm going to lift these two palettes at once. Let's try it. Of course, I wanted to compare the P. Louise palette with the Morphe James Charles. Yeah, this will work. I think you're getting some pretty similar shades in here in terms of the red, the pinks, the neutrals, and the purple. Obviously, you're not getting any greens in the P. Louise palette, as well as the whites and the blacks. Also, obviously, no shimmers. And then the James palette, it doesn't have that like teal blue shade, but you could totally create it by mixing the green and the blue. So if you already have James Charles, I don't think you really need the P. Louise one. But yeah, just wanted to show you guys a comparison because I think the formula of these is pretty similar. They're like pressed pigments, super pigmented and crazy. But I guess the P. Louise one is actually an eyeshadow palette. It's not a pigment palette. All right, so now I'm just gonna give you guys my final thoughts and my wrap up. Do I think these are worth it? Yes and no. I think the palette is really good, and for doing some colorful looks, I think it's going to be one of my favorites to reach for just because the quality of these eyeshadows is awesome. So I really want to see them come out with more palettes because this is pretty like overwhelming in terms of there's so many colors in here. A lot of them look very similar to each other. So I want to see them come out with some other color schemes. I would love to see them do more because the formula in here is really good. You'll see me continuing to use these in tutorials. I just think they're really good quality eyeshadow bases. The buying experience was a bit of a deterrent for me, but the products itself were really good, and I do give them my stamp of approval. So yeah, that is my review of the P. Louise Secret Center palette and the bases. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you want to see me review next because I love making these like full in-depth review videos for you guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed down below and also follow me on Instagram to see makeup looks like this one posted semi-regularly. And if you made it to the very end of this video, I love you. Bye.
So what if I'm the monster?